Have you ever wondered why tall, small, skinny towers fall over so easily? Hi, welcome to Brick Stud. Today we're learning the science of buckling.
Brick Stud.
Today we're learning about Euler's buckling equation, but first we need to learn some vocabulary words about how things break. Tension. Compression. Buckling. Compression. Torsion. Shear. Bending moment. Euler's buckling equation is going to tell us what force is required to break something in buckling. It was created by Euler. He was a Swiss mathematician. He was really smart. He popularized using the symbol for pi, functions between different variables, the imaginary number. And he also came up with a whole bunch of engineering equations, music, astronomy, and a whole bunch of other things. So buckling occurs when something is under compression. But when something is in compression, it doesn't always buckle. If something is short and fat or not slender, then it will not buckle. If something is really long and slender, then it will buckle. So if it's long and skinny. So you need to know, when is something slender? You can tell if something is slender based on this slenderness ratio. So if this ratio is really high, then something is slender and it is going to buckle. It's determined by this equation, KL over R. K is the end factor. The way you determine the end factor is by looking at this chart, how the ends are fixed. Looking through the chart, you then use the corresponding K. The most common K factor is having pinned ends. So the ends are fixed, but they're allowed to rotate. That is the most common K factor. The strongest K factor is if both ends are fixed and they are not allowed to rotate. So that is K. L is the length. If it's longer, then this is a larger ratio. If it's shorter, it's a smaller ratio. R is the radius of gyration. This one is a little bit harder. R equals the square root of I over A. We're going to get rid of that square root by squaring both sides, and we'll see why we did that in the future. It's going to make substitution a little bit easier. As we all remember, I is the moment of inertia. So if you have something with a lot of area, cross-sectional area, and that cross-sectional area is very far from the bending axis, then you will have a large moment of inertia. A is the cross-sectional area. So since you're taking the moment of inertia and dividing it by the area, the radius of gyration is a way of telling you how can you get a really large moment of inertia with a small area. So that brings us back to the slenderness ratio. But we don't want to just know if something's slender. We actually want to calculate when something will break. So we're going to use this equation. Sigma here represents stress. Stress is going to tell you when a material is going to break. It's a material property. So steel breaks at a stress of about 36,000 pounds per square inch. For buckling, the stress, this is the equation that Euler came up with, is pi squared times E over KL over R squared. A new thing in this equation that you haven't seen before is the letter E. That represents Young's modulus. Young's modulus is a material property that tells you how stiff a material is. So steel is very stiff. It would have a high Young's modulus for that letter E. That is one of the ways that you can make something stronger under buckling, is just pick a stiffer, stronger material. Down below, you may notice KL over R squared. That is our slenderness ratio. It's showing up again. Hooray! Now, a lot of you have never heard of stress before, and so we're not going to try and solve for the stress. We are going to solve for the actual force that causes something to buckle. So we are going to now solve this equation for the letter F, the force that will cause our member to buckle and break. So we don't care about sigma. To get rid of the A on the left side, we multiply both sides by area. The A on the left side is going to cancel, and now we're just left with force on the left side, and area is multiplied on the right side. You may remember that R, the radius of gyration, R squared, is equal to moment of inertia divided by area. So we take that, substitute into R squared. We can then cancel out the area on both sides. If we're dividing by a fraction of moment of inertia, we can just move the moment of inertia up to the top of the equation. And now we are left with the force that will cause something to buckle is equal to pi squared times Young's modulus times the moment of inertia divided by the K factor squared times L squared, length squared. So this is the equation where we can actually solve for a number, a force, how many pounds, how many newtons, that will actually cause something to break. Now, conceptually, we can think of what would make something stronger. How do we require a larger force to break something? So we can look at each variable in the equation and see how could we change it to make this equation bigger. So if we pick a stronger, stiffer material, then it would be stronger. If we have a larger moment of inertia by picking a fat and wide object, for example, a really big tower, a big wide tower would be stronger. Down on the bottom, we can pick fixed ends and we can reduce the length. And the length, we don't have to just reduce the total length, we can actually use bracing. So instead of having one very long piece, we could have a bunch of short pieces that are reinforced along the length. And that is how you have a larger force to break your item. So that is how you design something to resist buckling. Based on our lesson, there's only a few ways that we can increase the strength to resist against buckling. So we can pick a stronger Young's modulus, or modulus of elasticity. That's picking a material that is stronger. So for example, steel is stronger than plastic. In this case, we're using Lego, so plastic is the best we can do. We can't change Young's modulus. Another one that we can do is increase the moment of inertia. So you can take a small skinny tower like this. This one will have a low critical force. It will want to buckle even under a small force. You can increase the moment of inertia by making it wider. And now it can hold more force before it wants to then buckle and pop out sideways. Another way is you can fix the end, so you change the value K. I don't have examples of it right here, but if you hold the end stiff and then try and push down, it's a lot harder and you have to push harder before it buckles. So change the K factor. And then another way is to reduce the length. So right here we have a big tall tower. It's this tall. We can brace it along the height. So instead of having this be one long unbraced length, we can take some of these and brace it along them as we go up the tower. Hold on one second and I'll show you an example. Okay, so now what we've done is we changed the unbraced length. So the length is no longer the height of the whole tower. The length is actually only one of these sections. You can only buckle in one of these sections at a time, or as the entire unit, you're looking at that buckling. So now this is considerably stronger. I'd have to push a lot harder because I changed the length to just these sections. And of course, we can do this in a combination. If you want to make something that is really strong, pick a stronger material, make it a shorter length, and increase the moment of inertia. So you could take something like this, larger moment of inertia, and it's braced, so the lengths are all shorter. And that is way stronger. It's strong in a downward force. In a completely different video, we'll look at, well, what if you push from the side? And those are lateral forces. So this is a gravity force, downward, lateral force, something from the side. Different video. Now you know why tall, skinny towers fall over so easily, and you know how to improve your design so that that doesn't happen. You can pick a stronger material, cut down on the length, fix the ends, and increase the moment of inertia. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, keep building.